Let's go to page 149, number 1. You have y equal to sine x, and you want to go from negative 2 pi to 2 pi. So first get all the critical information. So you got a equal to 1, so a is the amplitude, that's the number in front. B equal to 1, that's a coefficient over here. C equal to 0, that is the number over here. And then from there you also need to get k. K is the vertical shift, so in this case 0. K is the number in front here. Now from B, you need to go and figure out the period. So period equal to 2 pi over B. So period equal to 2 pi over 1, so just 2 pi. Then from there you want to find out the Q. So Q is quarter. Quarter means 1/4. So that means 2 pi over 4. So Q equal to pi over 2. Then from the C, you need to figure out the shift. So S equal to negative C over B. So shift, so since C equal to 0, the shift is equal to 0. So once you get all this information, then you can go and do the graphing. Okay, so page 149, this is number 1. So this is a sine function. So sine function starts go uphill. So I'm going to start right over here. And when you draw your axes, you can line up the points. You line up these points so that your axes would be straight up and down. If you don't pay attention, sometimes you may be crooked like that. So make sure you line up, it will give you the axes straight. So this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. So your x and the y. Okay, now let's go and use all this information. So the quarter wave is pi over 2. That means every critical point is pi over 2. So it would be pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, and this is 2 pi over 2 or the 2 pi. Okay. And then here just 0, and you go backwards, so negative pi over 2, negative 2 pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 4 pi over 2, or 2 pi, okay, either way. So if you don't simplify, that's okay. Now don't forget your amplitude. Okay, so over here again, none of the maximum point to draw your little hash mark over here. So make sure that you get the right place. If you don't line it up, you might put in the hash mark in the wrong place. Okay, the amplitude A is 1, so that's the height. So that's how much it go up or down. So A equal to 1, that means this would be 1, this would be negative 1. Okay, so that's number 1. Now let's go to number 2. So very similar, you got y equal to cosine x, and you want to go from negative 2 pi to 2 pi. So get all the information. So again, A equal to 1, B equal to 1, C equal to 0, so K equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over B. So write down your formula first, and then you substitute, so it would be 2 pi. So Q is 1/4 of that, so 2 pi over 4. So Q equal to pi over 2. Over here, the shift is negative C over B. Now when you write these things, I will help you to memorize the formula. Okay, so shift equal to 0 because C is equal to 0. So once you get those information, then you can go and get ready to graph. Okay, so number 2. Now cosine starts from the maximum point. So the cosine starts over here. So you want to draw your axis right over here. So that's the y, and this is the x. Okay. And cosine again. So amplitude, this is 1, and use this ruler to line up to get a hash mark. Right? You can line at the bottom. So that's your negative 1. So take care of the A, and then you do the quarter wave, so here's your 0, pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, and over here there's 4 pi over 2, and that's it. Stop, don't go anymore, because you have to follow that, right? You want to only go up to 2 pi, and you go backward to negative 2 pi, so here's your negative pi over 2, negative 2 pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 4 pi over 2. Okay, and that's it. That's all the information you need. Okay, let's go to number 3. So every point you go through the same process. Okay. So number 3, you have y equal to negative 2 sine x, and you want to go from 0 to 4 pi. Even the instruction is a little bit different, but you're going to do exactly the same thing. Okay, so you're going to get a. Now remember, a is how much it go up and down. Okay, so even there's a negative, the amplitude is absolute value, so it'll be just 2. So don't put negative over here. Okay, amplitude is how much it go up or down. Okay, so that's a distance, so it's absolute value, so it's 2. So don't include in the negative. B is this number here, so it's 1. C equal to 0. And k, again, there's no plus or minus in the front. You don't have anything plus that, so it'll be 0. Period equal to 2 pi over b, so period equal to 2 pi. And the quarter wave is 1/4 of that, so it'll be 2 pi over 4. So q equal to pi over 2. So get all this information. The shift is negative c over b, so shift equal to 0. So once you get all that, then you can come and graph. Okay. So for number 3, okay, so normally the sign starts over here, okay, but now there's a negative. Okay, so there's a negative. So what we negative do is negative will flip upside down. So instead of going uphill, normally it starts over here. Instead of going uphill, it's going to go downhill now. So it's going to be start right over here. Okay. So for sine function, again, like this one is going up, but because it's negative, so negative over here, the negative over here will flip upside down. So instead of going up, it will start going down. So just be aware of that. So you got to pay attention to that. Okay, so let's do the amplitude. So so this will be the 1, and this is a negative 1. And then you want to start from 0. So you go 0, and then you go pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, or don't forget your y-axis and x-axis. So 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, and you have 8 pi over 2. So you got to make sure this match with this. Okay. Okay. So that's graph for number 3. Okay, let's go to number 4. You have y equal to negative 3 cosine x. So every point go through the same process. So you got a equal to 3. Again, do not including the negative. B equal to 1. C equal to 0. So you got k equal to 0. And p is 2 pi over b. So period equal to 2 pi. And quarter wave is 2 pi over 4. So q equal to pi over 2. The shift is negative c over b. So shift equal to 0. So once you get all the information, then you can go and do the graphing. So number 4. So if you look over here, the cosine starts on the very top. Right? Cosine starts on the very top. But negative cosine, so negative cosine over here will flip the graph upside down. So instead of starting at the highest, you're going to start at the lowest. So you're going to start right over here. Okay. So that's the y-axis, x-axis, and the amplitude is 3. So this would be a 3. And this would be negative 3 over here. So take care of the amplitude. Then after that, let's go and do the quarter wave. So we start at 0. And then, okay, you want to go from 0 to 4 pi. So we're going to run out of space. So so that's why you want to use pencil, so that way you can shift this over here. I'm going to move this to this side here. Okay. So you got 3, negative 3. So you got 0, pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, and you want to keep going until you reach 4 pi. 4 pi, so that means you have to get rid of these. Okay, so you got 6 pi over 2, 7 pi over 2, and over here would be your 8 pi over 2, and that's your 4 pi. That's over here. Okay, and that's it. So again, use pencil, and that way if you run out of space, you can shift it back. So let's go to number 5. Number 5, you have y equal to 1/2 sine x, and you want to go from 0 to 2 pi. So you can go through this. So you got a equal to, now this case, a equal to 1/2, b equal to 1, c equal to 0, k equal to 0, and period equal to 2 pi over b, so it would be 2 pi. Quarter wave is equal to 2 pi over 4, so it would be pi over 2. Now, since we did so many of these, we can use that information from before and save you some time, right? Because these are the same, so you can just get from that. And the shift is negative c over b, so shift equal to 0. Okay, so let's go and do the graphing. So this is 1/2 sine x. So if you compare to these, okay, so if you look at number 1, okay, it's the same except the amplitude is half. Okay, so we're just going to look very similar to number 1. Okay, so over here, so amplitude is 1/2, so this would be 1/2, and this would be negative 1/2. And then you want to go from 0 to 2 pi, so you go from 0 to 2 pi, so 0, pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2. Okay, and that's it. So the number in front, you only affect the height. So instead of going all the way to 1, you only go up to 1/2. Okay, so this is number 5. Okay, let's go to number 6. So you got y equal to 1/3 cosine x. You want to go from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so I'm going to use the cosine information from number 2. See number 2 over here, everything is the same except for the a is 1/3, right? So a equal to 1/3, b equal to 1, c equal to 0, k equal to 0, and period equal to 2 pi, and q equal to pi over 2, and shift equal to negative c over b, so shift equal to 0. Okay, so that's all the information for number 6. So once you do a few, it becomes fairly simple. Okay, so when you graph number 6, okay, so this is the cosine. So cosine starts from the maximum height, right? The highest point. So that's the y. This is the x. And the amplitude is 1/3. So that means this is 1/3. And this would be negative 1/3. And you want to go from 0 to 2 pi. So don't forget your 0. All right, so start with 0. Pi over 2. 2 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2. Okay, and so that's it for number 6. Okay, let's go to number 7. In number 7, you got y equal to sine of 2 pi x. And you want to go from negative 2 to 2. So a equal to 1, That's the A number. Now this time B is this coefficient equal to 2 pi. Okay, so B is the coefficient before the x, and C equal to 0. So you can K equal to 0. So period equal to 2 pi over B. So period equal to 2 pi over 2 pi. So period equal to 1. So quarter wave, quarter is 1/4 of that, so it'll be just 1/4. Okay. So when you find out when you're going to look for Q, you can either divide by 4 or multiply by 1/4. And the S is negative C over B, so S equal to 0. So that's all the information you have. So now let's go into the graphing. So number 7. So this is a sine graph. So sine start with go uphill, so it start right over here. So you have to remember your starting point. So sine starts over here to go uphill. So that's Y, and this is the X. So the amplitude is 1. So that's 1. And here's your negative. So remember to get your maximum and get your minimum. And the quarter wave is 1/4. So every critical point is 1/4. So this is start with 0. So 1/4, 2 over 4, 3 over 4. 4 over 4. And you want to go all the way to 2. So this is 5 over 4, 6 over 4, 7 over 4, 8 over 4. Okay? And then you have to go all the way back to negative 2. So negative 1 over 4, negative 2 over 4, negative 3 over 4, negative 4 over 4, negative 5 over 4, negative 6 over 4, negative 7 over 4, negative 8 over 4. Okay, so you go all the way from negative 2 to positive 2. So make sure you get the correct the domain for that. Okay. Let's go to number 8. You got y equal to cosine of 4 pi x, and you're going from negative 1 to 1. Okay, so A equal to 1, B equal to 4 pi, C equal to 0, K equal to 0, okay, period equal to 2 pi over B, so period equal to 1 over 2, and the shift equal to negative C over, so it's just going to equal to 0. Okay. Now, if it's something obvious, you can write it down, but if not, you want to show steps, so that way avoid careless mistakes. Okay, so then you go to 8. This is the cosine, so cosine start from the very top. So that's your y, and this is your x. And your amplitude is 1, so this will be 1. Again, none at the bottom, so negative 1. And you want to start with 0, and the period is, we forgot a Q. So Q is 1/4. So 1/2 times 1/4, right? Q means quarter, means 1/4. So Q equal to 1 over 8. Okay, so now we can, so this will be 1 over 8, 2 over 8, 3 over 8, 4 over 8, 5 over 8, up to go all the way to 1. So 6 over 8, 7 over 8, 8 over 8. Okay, you have to go back to negative 1. So be negative 1 over 8, negative 2 over 8, negative 3 over 8, negative 4 over 8, negative 5 over 8, negative 6 over 8, negative 7 over 8, negative 8 over 8. Okay, and so that is for number 8. Okay, let's go to number 9. You have y equal to cosine of x over 4, and you want to go from 0 to 8 pi. So A equal to 1, B Now b is a coefficient, so be 1/4. Now don't include the variable. Do not include in the variable. So c equal to 0. So k equal to 0. Now over here, period equal to 2 pi over b. So period equal to 2 pi over 1/4. So this is a complex fraction. To simplify complex fraction, you multiply by common denominator, which is the 4. So multiply by 4. Multiply by 4. So period equal to 8 pi. Quarter wave divided by 4, so you get 2 pi. Okay, 1/4 of that, right? 1/4. So divide by 4 or multiply by 1/4. Over here, the shift equal to 0. Okay, so let's go and do number 9. Okay, so number 9, this is the cosine graph. So cosine graph starts from the very top. And your amplitude is 1, so that's 1. That's your -1. And the quarter wave is 2 pi, so here's 0, that's a 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi, and that's what you want, right? And that's it. You want to go from 0 to 8 pi, go from 0 to 8 pi, so this has to match from 0 to 8 pi. Okay, so that's your graph. Okay, let's go to number 10. Okay, you got y equal to sine of x over 2, and you want to go from 0 to 4 pi. Again, a equal to 1, b equal to 1/2. So again, everything over here except for the variable. C equal to 0, k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b. So 2 pi over b, and multiply by common denominator to simplify your complex fraction. So this cancels out, so you get 4 pi. Quarter wave is divided by 4 or multiply by 1/4, so you get pi. Right? Again, q means quarter, means 1/4. Now because c equal to 0, so the shift equal to 0. Okay, so that's everything you need. So let's go and graph. So for number 10, so this is a sine function. The sine starts from going up. And since we're going to go from 0 to 4 pi, we can start right over here. So that's the y, and this is the x. The amplitude is 1. So that's the 1. And here's the -1, and here's your 0. And the quarter wave is pi, so it's pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. So the quarter wave is how much is each the division. Every division is pi, so you go pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. And that's it for number 10. Okay, let's go to number 11. You have y equal to 2 sine 4x. So now this one have a and a b now. Okay? So you want to go from -pi to pi. So you can just go through the exactly same step. So a equal to 2, b equal to 4, c equal to 0, k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b. So period equal to pi over 2. And the shift equal to 0. And don't forget the q. So q, you would just want to times by 1/4. Right? Again, quarter, right? 1/4. So this times by 1 over 4 give you pi over 8. Okay, so once you do that, then we're ready to graph. So let's go and graph number 11. So this is a sine function. Sine function starts from going uphill. So start over here. So that's the y. This is the x. Okay, so the a equal to 2. So none it up. So that's the 2. Again, none of the bottom point over here. So that's the -2, and start with a 0. And so quarter wave is pi over 8, means every division is pi over 8. So you get pi over 8, 2 pi over 8, 3 pi over 8, 4 pi over 8, 5 pi over 8, 6 pi over 8, 7 pi over 8. Then you have 8 pi over 8. You want to go all the way to pi. And you do the same thing going backwards, so negative pi over 8, negative 2 pi over 8, negative 3 pi over 8, negative 4 pi over 8, negative 5 pi over 8, negative 6 pi over 8, negative 7 pi over 8, negative 8 pi over 8. And so that's number 11. Let's go to number 12. Okay, number 12, you got y equal to 3 cosine of 2x, 2x. And you want to go from negative pi to pi. So it's very similar to that. And we can use all this information, right? So a equal to 2, b equal to 2, c equal to 0, k equal to 0. Now period equal to 2 pi over b, 2 pi over b, so period equal to pi. So q is 1/4 of that, so it would be pi over 4. Now over here c equal to 0, so shift equal to 0. So now we got all the information, so let's go and do the graphing. Okay. So that's number 12. And this is cosine, so cosine starts from the very top. So that's the y, and this is the x. And your amplitude is amplitude is 3, not 2. Right? Match. Okay. So when you're using information, you have to be careful. Make sure you don't just use the 2. Okay, it's 3 over here. Okay, so that's the 3. And this is the -3, and you start with 0. So each quarter is pi over 4. So pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, and you want to go up to pi. Okay, so 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, and you go backward. You get negative pi over 4, negative 2 pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 4. Negative 4 pi over 4. Okay, and that's it for number 12. Okay, let's go to 13. You have y equal to 1/3 cosine of 2 pi x. And you want to go from -2 to 2. So a equal to 1/3, b equal to 2 pi, c equal to 0, k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b, so 2 pi over 2 pi, period equal to 1, so a quarter wave is 1/4, right? Quarter means 1/4. The shift equal to 0, so now we got all the information. So let's go to number 13. This is the cosine function, so cosine starts from the very top. And you want to go symmetrical, so you want to start from the middle. So you want to start right over here. Okay. So cosine. So that's the y, and this is the x. So the amplitude a is 1/3, so this is 1/3, and this would be -1/3, right? The amplitude. Okay. So make sure you match. And then your quarter wave is 1/4, so 0, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. And how? Okay, you have to go all the way up to 2, so you have to keep going. So it'll be 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. And you have to go all the way to -2, so -1/4, -2/4, -3/4. -4/4, -5/4. negative 6 over 4, negative 7 over 4, negative 8 over 4, and that's your stop. Okay, so that's number 13. Okay, now let's go to number 14. You have y equal to 1/2 sine of 2 pi x, and you want to go from negative 2 to 2. So again, very similar. So a equal to 1/2, b equal to 2 pi, c equal to 0. And then you get the k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b. So 2 pi over 2 pi, so period equal to 1. So q equal to 1/4, and then shift equal to 0. Okay, so once you got information, let's go and graph. So number 14, this is a sine function. Sine function start go uphill, so starts right over here. So that's the x. That's the y. This is the x. Okay, so let's get the amplitude. So a is 1/2, right? A is 1/2. So this is 1/2, negative 1/2. And the q is 1/4. So that's 1 over 4, 2 over 4, 3 over 4, 4 over 4, and half more go over to 2. Okay, so 5 over 4, 6 over 4, 7 over 4, 8 over 4. You have to go backward, same thing, negative 1 over 4, negative 2 over 4, negative 3 over 4, negative 4 over 4, negative 5 over 4, negative 6 over 4, negative 7 over 4, negative 8 over 4. Right? And that's, make sure you check your range under the domain, make sure they match. Okay? So that's number 14. Okay, let's go to number 15. Number 15, you got y equal to negative 1 over 4 sine of x over 2, and you want to go from negative 4 pi to 4 pi. So a equal to 1 over 4. Now remember, that's a negative, but remember amplitude is absolute value. Okay, so it's positive, right? So a equal to 1/4, b equal to 1 over 2, c equal to 0. So far the case is always equal to 0 so far. Okay, so that's going to figure out the period. So period equal to 2 pi over b. So to simplify, you multiply by common denominator. So period equal to, this cancels equal to 4 pi. So q is 1/4 of that, so it would be pi, and the shift equal to 0. Okay, so that's going to do the graphing. So number 15, this is a sine function. So sine function usually starts over here to go up, right? Now because the negative over here is going to flip everything upside down. So instead of going up, you have to start going down. Okay, so watch out for the negative. So you will go down instead of go up. And again, get your amplitude. So this would be 1 over 4. And this would be negative 1 over 4. And then q is pi. So start at 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. Yeah, so that's all you need, right? 4 pi. And you go backward. So you got negative pi, negative 2 pi, negative 3 pi, negative 4 pi. And that would be, that's it for number 15. Okay, let's go to number 16. Number 16, you have y equal to negative 3 cosine x over 2. And you want to go from negative 4 pi to 4 pi. So a equal to 3, b equal to 1/2, c equal to 0, k equal to 0, period equal to 2 pi over b, and multiply by 2 to simplify complex fraction. So period, so this cancels out, so you got 4 pi. And then quarter wave is 1/4 of that, so would be pi. The shift equal to 0. Okay, so that's all the information. So now let's go and do the graphing. So this is the negative cosine. So normally cosine starts up like this. Okay, start on the top, but because the negative flip everything upside down, that means it starts from the bottom. That's the y, this is the x. And your amplitude is 3. So that's a 3. Negative 3. So you could start with 0. So q is pi. So get pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and 4 pi. And you go negative, so you got negative pi, negative 2 pi, negative 3 pi, negative 4 pi.